Hey, this is Editing Loran. I hadn't thought about the fact when I filmed this video that it would be going up on the 1st of January. So I forgot to say a couple of things, and those things are Happy New Year! I hope 2021 will bring you happy things. I hope you will read nice books. I hope you will get vaccinated. I think that is the thing we are all looking forward to. I hope for you that the vaccination won't take too long. I hope you and your loved ones are going to have a nice year. I think we can all use that. Whatever nice means. I mean, everything cannot be nice. But yeah, I hope the best things for you. And now onto the video. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Talia Verkade, and today we are going to do a tag, the reading retrospective tag, which was created last year by my friend Pauline from Dancing Lawn. Did I say that correctly? We'll see when I edit. So this tag consists of 10 questions, I believe. Tags always consist of 10 questions. Yes, 10 questions. And she made this to have some guidelines to talk about books that stayed with you from the last year, if I say it correctly. I'll tag her original video, the one that she made last year, down below, as well as her answers from this year. And we are going to dive into it. So these questions are about books that you read last year and bookish things, and I've tried in my answers not to refer to the books that I'm going to feature in my best books of the year video, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of repetition going on, and there are other books that I still want to highlight, so this tag was actually great. The first question is, which book you read this year would you recommend to anyone and why? So this book would have to be Invisible Women by Criado Perez. So it's a non-fiction that talks about all the differences in designing things between men and women, and how women are not taken into account when designing anything, and how even in data and in research, data that comes from women and data that comes from men is not separated. Therefore we can't see that we sometimes have different needs because of social constructs. And I have actually been recommending this book to a lot of people, so much so in fact that I got the book, read it, loved it, and a couple of weeks later it was the birthday of a good friend of mine who is a designer, so I thought, hey, this was great, and I gave her the book for her birthday, and I ordered it myself again so that I would have it, and I ordered it also for another friend for her birthday. She only got it 5 months after her birthday actually was, but never mind. Anyway, my copy, I ended up lending it to my mother, and yesterday or 2 days ago my mother actually told me, so yeah, I really liked it, I'm gonna keep it, here's money, you can buy your own again. So now I have, for the third time, I'm going to have to order the book. So that's how much I'm recommending that one, and I often talk about it. The second question is, which book you read this year has taught you something new? I have two options for this one. The first is going to be The Influential Mind by Tali Shabot. This is about how our brain works, basically, and it taught me a lot. It taught me, for example, that when you're given data and you already have an opinion on the thing, the data is not going to change your mind. The data is going to, whatever your opinion already is, it's going to make your opinion even stronger, even if I'm not explaining this correctly. So there's a subject, there's opinion A and opinion B, because the world is very black and white, and you're of opinion A, but you are shown information that is supportive of opinion B, then your brain will still see that information as a fact that A is still the correct thing, because it will see all the reasons for which that data is not correct, or not presented correctly, or interpreted wrongly, or stuff like that, which was fascinating. It also talks about how we are always thinking us versus them, because when we were hunter-gatherers, we were in groups of maximum of 100, and it's important to be a part of that group. So you're going to take on thoughts, you're going to take on habits that are part of the group, and anything that is not of that group, you are going to repel it, because it's a danger for the group and therefore a danger to your survival. Also very interesting, and it talks also about our reptile brain, so the first part of our brain that was developed, and that is the part that does the emotions. And when we're scared, when we're angry, we go to that part of the brain more quickly than we go to the cortex. So the actual thinking comes later. So often we react with emotions, and it's the emotions that guide what we do more than it's our thinking brain. So that was very interesting. Super book. And the other book that I wanted to talk about that taught me a lot of things new was De Recht van het Snelste. It talks about the way in which we move, the transport, the being a pedestrian versus being a car. It talks about why there are a lot of bikes in the Netherlands. It was fascinating, and still now, every time that I walk somewhere, I think about how weird it is that cars are the norm, that everything is about best throughput time, and it's not necessarily about safety. It's not necessarily about kids being allowed to grow and just be kids and play in a street. So now every time that I cross a crossing point, you know, with the zebra thingies, what are those called in English? A cross point? You know, the white stripes on the ground? I used to kind of always half run because I didn't want the cars to have to stop for me. But that's ridiculous. I'm allowed to be there. That crossing point is one of the few spaces where I, as a pedestrian, am allowed to walk, and I have priority. I'm allowed to walk at the tempo that I'm walking at. So now I don't run over those crossway thingies. Pedestrian crossing. Thanks, boyfriend. And the book also made me aware of how little space pedestrians have, that if you're walking through an area with houses, a residential area, so when you're walking in a residential area, that cars, even when they're not necessarily there, they take up so much space. We have the actual roads, we have the parking areas, and because of that, the pedestrian lanes are sometimes so small that someone that is pushing a baby cart, yeah, my English is going very well today, a buggy will not be able to pass because the pedestrian lanes are too small. They won't pass, and sometimes you have the lighting poles, so they can't pass. Anybody that is in a wheelchair will not be able to pass. All of that because we are in this society where we have to be efficient. Cars have to be efficient because then you are at your job faster and then you can make more money, which the book also shows is not the case, because apparently we have a average time that we are willing to go to our work for, which is 1 hour and something. And if we can go farther, it doesn't mean that we spend more time in traffic. It means that we are willing to live further away from our work. Anyway, it was a fascinating book, and even though I read it, I think already 6 months ago, whenever I'm outside, I keep going back to it. I keep being surprised at how we are willing to keep making highways, even though we know that making more highways means there are just going to be more cars. Fascinating book. It's only in Dutch though, and I don't think it's going to be translated anytime soon. So if you want to know more, maybe I can just dive into some chapters or something, because it was so interesting. I have so many questions, so much more. It's a mix of wonder and sadness about the way we constructed the world. So we're only at the second question. This is going very well. Third question. Which book you read this year came just at the right time when you needed it? So for me, I chose The Offing by Benjamin Myers. I was not expecting this book to be good, and I read it at the beginning of the first lockdown when I just realized reading books was going to be the thing that I would do that year. And in this book, it's about a young boy at the end of the Second World War that is supposed to have a life in the mines, but he kind of goes away for vacation and meets a woman that is going to help him realize that there is more to life than working in mines, and she kind of shows him the romance of life as well. And they spend a lot of time on the seaside, and it was written in such a way that I was at the seaside with them. I felt the wind in my hairs, I was enjoying the wine, I was enjoying the books, and I think that came at a right moment. And I'd recommend it. The fourth question is, which book you read this year will stay with you for a long time? That is De Avond is Ongemak by Marieke Lucas Reinfeldt, which won the International Booker Prize and in English is called The Discomfort of Evening. This book is absolutely not for everyone. It is gruesome, it is yucky, it is yucky, it is yucky, it is yucky, it is absolutely disgusting. In a way that I found fascinating. There are so many yucky things I can still remember, and I'm afraid I can visualize it. I can, for everybody that has read it, I visualize the hamster thing, I visualize the pin thing, it's disgusting. And they just brought out a second book, and I'm definitely going to read it because I was fascinating in this gruesome and how all these gruesome yucky things are interesting somehow to me, apparently, which I didn't expect. The book is about a family in the Netherlands in a farm, and they lose a child in a skating accident, and it has different repercussions for different people of the family. And we read from the point of view of a young girl who grieves differently than her parents. Her parents completely shut down, and she finds different ways of being that are completely disgusting. And it's going to stay with me for a very long time. Fifth question, which book you read this year expanded your reading horizon? So a new genre, a new author, a theme, or a format? I have two answers for this one. One is that I discovered rereading, and I have absolutely loved it. It took me a while to get into it, but the second part of the year when I started rereading favorites, absolutely loved it. So I'm going to do more of that. So that expanded my horizons. And the second one is I am currently reading, can you give me my book please? Thank you. New Suns. It's original speculative fiction by people of color, and it's edited by Nisi Shawl. I only have 2 stories left. I'm going to finish this today. It's a short story collection by people of color, and it's science fiction and a bit fantasy. And all of the stories, I have no idea how many they are, but they're so different and they're told in so many different ways. And it has absolutely, first of all, I don't read a lot of science fiction, so it has partially opened my eyes to that. But it has mostly opened my eyes to the power short story collections like this that come from a very big group of authors that all have so many different ways of telling very different stories, and it really made me think about, okay, but what makes that in one story I am sucked in from the first page, and the other I'm just not interested in, and the other it takes me a little bit longer. And it made me think about, especially with science fiction, you have these worlds. That's a complicated word. Worlds, always a problem. Focus. So we have all of these very complicated worlds, very different worlds, and part of the thing that I like about science fiction is, especially with all these short stories, is you need to switch. You need to forget the previous one and kind of let go of the things you accepted that were part of that world and just dive into a new one. And I thought that was very interesting how all of these authors made you interact with their world. That was I love that, and I think I'm going to have to look for more short stories like this, more short story collections, more anthologies, because they're so interesting. 6th question, which bookish things did you particularly enjoy, purchased, or using during this year? Again, I have 2 answers. One is the library. I rediscovered the library. I'm very lucky in that in the Netherlands, libraries are connected and you can order books that are in another city and they will get it to you. I also discovered that I am allowed to borrow 10 books at a time, which I did not know. I thought I was allowed to borrow 2. Then I discovered there were 10. That's a huge difference, and it makes it more easy to just go and get a lot of things and be okay with also giving them back, because 10, you have more possibilities. You have to do less decisions. And I've also discovered that I can order books and they'll just keep them away, and then I don't have to actually walk through the library and get tempted. Very important. And the second one is I have really liked making book bingos. So I started making book bingos. I'll show you examples here or below. I made 3 this year, mostly for my book club. I started at the first lockdown, and there was one, the second wave book bingo that I did talk about and that I'm going to link up here in the video. And I really enjoyed connecting things that were happening in real life to bookish prompts, and then making TBRs and sharing with my book club and other people, and just that whole experience of thinking of things and of thinking of books, and also actually then finding the other nerdy idiots who are crossing off all of the things. I really like that experience. So making book bingos. 7th questions. Who are some booktubers, subscribers, or other bookish friends that you got to know better this year? So for me, this year was the year that I came to Booktube. So automatically that means that I made a lot of friends. And so from watching videos of people talking about their experience on Booktube, I knew that the community was a positive. And I can concur. It really is the thing that is making this experience wonderful. So I'm not going to talk about all of the friends that I made, because I think also that is one of the really big positives of this year, is all of my new bookish friends. But the two that definitely jump out are Pauline from Dancing Lawn, who I've been doing a couple of buddy reads with, and I've just loved chatting with her. She's such a kind person, and I love seeing we have a lot of parallels, which is also very interesting. And the other is Paula from Draw Your Books, my soulmate. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about why we're soulmates at one point. But yeah, I've also loved connecting with her. We have similar reading styles, so I'm always afraid when I watch her videos that I'm going to come away with a lot of new recommendations, and more recommendations that I'm gonna be able to read, but I'm okay with that. The 8th question of this tag is, what Booktube video did you particularly enjoy this year? I was thinking about that. There were a couple of tags that I really enjoyed making, but the video that I loved most was when I was at my parents' and I looked through old boxes to find childhood books or books that I read when I was a teenager, and all of the nostalgia. That was wonderful. And we have the question, did you discover a new all-time favorite book? I think I did, but I'm not going to show you the book. Well, first of all, because I don't have it. It's still on its way. Well, no, it's still being reprinted. But it's historical fiction, you might have guessed. It's very, very lyrical. I love the writing, and I love the growth of the main character, and how the main character goes from being a child, just a child with a huge fantasy, to a child, well, to whatever a child is that has seen horrible things. That journey was so interesting. So that is, I think, my new all-time favorite book. 10th question, tag your favorite bookish people. So I'm going to tag a couple of people that I met this year, and a couple of people that I've been meeting just these last few weeks. So I'm going to tag Tokyo Chemist, A Little Book Life, and Laura Reads Pages. I would love to see you doing this tag. I'm very curious about your answers. And please grab this opportunity to talk about books that you might otherwise not talk about for a second or third time. Anyway, I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you for watching. Bye!